And what made you have that type of personality? I think a lot of people don't have that personality. What drives you to think that way?
Um, shit. I know, actually, I know the answer to that.
Welcome back to another episode of Unleash Mindset. Excited to bring a great friend, entrepreneur, Westley Chow, to join us. As always, we're bringing the best entrepreneurs, people on our show to really unleash your greatest potential. So I'm excited. I've known Wesley for a very long time. Great friend, entrepreneur, business owner, and most importantly, he's going to share with you his journey, story, and success, where I'm confident will not only give you nuggets to help you along your journey, but inspire you to be your greatest potential. So Wesley, thank you for being here.
Yeah, great. Thanks, man.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
brother. Well, before we begin, we want to make sure Wesley's hydrated. So we have a choice. This is actually a test. We have scotch or we have sparkling water. What would you pick? I think I know your answer already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
we're going to go
it's a
sparkling
Wednesday.
water.
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daytime. We're gonna save this for Friday or Saturday.
We're not going to crack this bottle like Ashton Hall does on TikTok, though. So we're going to have some fun, have great, deep conversations, but excited to have you on our show. You have an incredible, amazing story, and I know there's going to be a lot of lessons learned today. But Wesley, why don't you start by sharing with all of us your journey in fitness, being an owner of multiple locations of UpFit Academy, and just what got you into this fitness journey, building your businesses, and how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been a long ride,
Yeah,
to say the least. I've been in the industry at this point for 19 years.
wow.
It's a long time, and most people don't make it 2 years in my industry. For me, I had a deep insecurity, I'll be honest with you, when I was younger. I'm a smaller guy. Thank you. Appreciate
Cheers.
it. Cheers. Cheers. I give you some dimensions because I come from the world of fighting also, and that was a big thing for me when I was younger. So I'm 5'2". When I was in high school, I was like 118 pounds. So I was a skinny kid. And so I had a lot of disadvantages. Let's be real, and I'll just tell you straight up, like with dating, bullying, a lot of things basically scarred me in a way that it put me in a position where I was either going to be a victim and I was just going to be subjugated to more of this, or I was going to take control and start to do something for myself that was going to help me develop in the way that I wanted to develop and also become the person who I wanted to become. So, training, I encountered honestly because like a friend of mine was like working out. I had a cousin who actually gave us a 300-pound set, squat rack, dumbbells from like 5 to 50. I was so lucky. My cousin Doug, shout out to Doug. And so I started strength training, right? And then at around the same time when I was like about 15, friends came over and we watched something called like Pride Fighting Championships. There was this one guy in particular, Crow Cop, who was just like left high kicking everybody and like knocking them out. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's got so much prowess, so much power, so much confidence. And as a young, impressionable teenage kid, that's what you want, right? You want to be respected. You want to have power. You want to, you want to have influence. And so, immediately I locked in and I was like, this is what I want to do. And for the longest time, I thought I was going to become a professional MMA fighter, thought I was going to make it into the UFC even more. And I'm telling you, I was 118 pounds. The lightest weight class in the UFC at the time was 155 pounds.
Wow.
So I was like, I need to get to 155. And so, you start to understand and research like what it takes in order for you to get size on.
Yep.
And junior year, so I was 16, I went through like a bulking phase, so to speak, right? I was bringing like a 2350 calorie shake from GNC.
Wow.
Tasted like chocolate cardboard. It's disgusting.
Okay.
I would bring that to school. I was drinking a bunch of shakes, eating 6 meals a day, and strength training twice a day. And I was doing martial arts. And I got into martial arts. I was doing fighting. I was competing. I was doing Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, JKD, and it became my whole identity. I put on something around like, let's just say 17, 18 pounds. I was 136,
Okay.
right? Which is a huge jump, right? And then
Over 10%.
yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of became the guy to go to for like knowledge in high school, for like training for size, right? And then I really, honestly, I started building a lot more camaraderie with a lot of the guys who, you're kind of insecure when you're a teenage kid, and I really like, I actually really started liking helping people and my friends. So I started training together and people employing different methods, and I started like experimenting with different things, and that's what got me into really the science of training. Fast forward, my brother, one of my brothers, who Jeff,
I know
my
all your
brother.
brothers. Yep.
Yeah,
Great
both my
guys.
brothers, and Jeff, pursued an exercise science degree. He's 4 years older, and at first I thought I was going to be a comp sci major. I really like computers and technology too.
You could have been a Google engineer in a different life.
I would have been a great engineer.
I know. I know you well enough. You were at Bronx Science, one of the specialized high schools. Smart guy
I did go
too.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm gonna follow in the footsteps of my brother, and I'm gonna pursue an exercise science degree with the potential of going for my doctorate in physical therapy. I ended up getting injured squatting 405 pounds, which is it's a lot of weight. I was also leg pressing like 960 back then too. And again, I was about 135 pounds. It's a lot of weight to move. And in the physical therapy setting, I realized like I don't want to do this.
Mm.
Given it's one aspect of physical therapy, more pain management, and I was kind of in what people these days call mills, which is they try to treat multiple people at a time. They're just billing insurance, not the best like quality of care. But anyway, I realized I don't want to do this. I started to fall in love with training. At 18, I got certified, started working with people. I was at New York Sports Club, the Sports Club LA, Crunch, New York Health and Racquet Club. I was running clubs, and I've basically built a reputation for myself, like based upon like a lot of precision, science, individualization. I've built a ton of relationships. I've learned to get along with a lot of different types of people and to add value to a lot of people. And that's what's kept me in the industry. I mean, I love it. Like if you ask me, like, how many people that I knew who have been in the industry for 20 plus years, there's probably less than 10 people in New York who have done it for this long and who are trying to continue to scale and grow their business and affect more positive change with the community.
Wow. I can hear your passion. More importantly, just hearing your journey of being, you mentioned undersized kid, teenager, finding your identity, wanted to build confidence, and then as you continue that focus on being a fighter, did you pursue any further in fighting?
I did.
Okay.
Like fighting for me was like my identity.
Okay.
And everybody who knew me in high school,
Yep.
and a lot of people who kind of knew me in college who knew that that's what I was doing. I was, again, I was training like mostly, I think when you break it down, like mixed martial arts is mainly like Muay Thai or a form of kickboxing or striking, sometimes boxing specific, but you got to learn how to kick. And then there's jujitsu or judo, which is generally like a grappling style, and then you need to learn how to clinch. So like there's usually like a Greco or freestyle or folk wrestling aspect into it as well. So I was mainly doing Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. My wrestling was like one of my weakest attributes until I started to develop that later on. But I was training, fighting Muay Thai, fighting Sancho. I was doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu tournaments all up and down like the East Coast. And I was fighting MMA also.
Great.
And so like a lot of like the lessons that I've learned in terms of like pushing through adversity, when things are uncomfortable, you keep going, not being afraid of certain things, and actually understanding what you may or may not actually be afraid of. A lot of those lessons I learned from martial arts and fighting. It's kind of crazy because like my EQ and my ability to read people has come largely from fighting.
From martial arts.
Because when you see people, and their eyes dart away or something, or their body language turns a certain way, you kind of know that you've like started to break them. And then when people start breathing heavier, they let out a sigh, you know that they're broken, and you just need to keep your gas on the pedal, even if you're also feeling like fatigued and exhausted as well. But if you don't show it, it's like a poker face.
Wow.
You'll eventually like break them. And that's kind of what I was known for, because I was a smaller guy. I wasn't in my weight class. Like eventually they opened up like the 125-pound weight class.
Yep.
But guys that fight at 125, they walk around at like 145, or maybe even 150 on like an off season, and they cut to get down to that weight.
You were bulking to get to that weight yourself.
Yeah, so I was trying to get to like 150, 155 to fight at like 135, 130, 125. And so I was never really able to get that big. I think a large part of it was genetics. A large part of it was also I was training and cross-training so much stuff that I couldn't eat enough, honestly. When you're doing martial arts, you're burning a lot of calories.
Yes.
Right? When you're doing like hypertrophy work or building muscle, it's less energy expenditure, and your body can have the time to grow more. So basically, like I was always undersized, even when I was 135 fighting at 125. The guys are always bigger. So you got to have attributes that you can rely on. Honestly, there are so many parallels when it comes to business as well. There's parallels that you can draw, from fighting that apply to a lot of different things. But you need to understand what your strengths are, and you need to double down on them. So my style was like a very fast-paced change of direction style, a lot of head movement, a lot of variety, because I was extremely like durable and athletic and mobile. And I would mix a lot of things up, and I would never gas out. So I was always known to like break people with my conditioning. It's and I don't know how much of your viewers are going to understand this, but like it's a different sort of feeling when like somebody shoots a hard double on you, you sprawl on them, and then you spin on their back, and then they're trying to turn into you, and then you're spinning again, you're grabbing arms, you're cinching their neck up, and then they feel like an anaconda is just like choking them and slowly getting tighter and tighter until you put the squeeze on them, and then they tap.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a different sort of game, and that sort of mindset for me has translated into a lot of like the way that I look at life these days.
That's great. And then so I think for a lot of people, especially in the fitness journey, losing weight is very difficult. I remember at one point in college, I guess it was with a freshman 15.
Yeah.
I'm 5'7". I gained up to like almost 200 pounds. And then one day,
wow.
yeah, over 200 pounds, my BMI was off the charts. And I think I was instead of chasing good grades, I was chasing cholesterol, blood pressure, and diabetes. But and I was foolish enough to think Subway sandwiches were going to slim me down.
Yeah.
And it did not. It did not. So so tell us a little bit about that journey of like bulking, because now that I work out, fitness is a part of my life, I realize, especially people that want to put on muscle, studies show, I think once you turn 30, you and I are over 30 years old, we start losing muscle.
Yeah.
When you're in the teenagers and when you're in your 20s, gaining muscle, it's not that hard, I think. But when you're in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, maintaining, having muscle is way harder. But what is the difference between losing weight, coming from a professional expert like you, and gaining weight? I think gaining weight is so much more difficult.
It is.
Okay.
And I usually tell people, and this is anecdotally, I'll tell them it's usually about 3 times as hard. And when you say gaining weight, you mean gaining muscle.
Gaining muscle. That's right. We can eat bags of chips all day and have some fast food, but that's not where we're going with this conversation.
Gaining muscle is so hard because there are a lot of things that need to go right for you to be able to put on muscle.
Yep.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, when you're younger, your body hasn't gone through as much training, and so you can kind of do anything, and the tension is just going to start to create some adaptation. I think hormonally there are a lot of other factors as well, but what you're talking about, I think, is age-related sarcopenia, which is like people losing muscle as they get older, especially when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and then their body's not being robust enough to be able to handle falls, for example. Being like probably one of the number one things that leads to a really rapid decline in quality of life, or ultimately like mortality. So putting on muscle is something that we talk about all the time, and there's a lot of things that need to go right. So like losing weight is pretty simple.
Yep.
It's inputs and outputs.
calories
It's
and
calories in,
deficit.
and
Yep.
yeah, exactly. It's energy
Right.
expended through physical exercise and non-exercise activity, and then energy taken in is the food, right?
Yep.
It's like spending less than you make.
Yes. That's a great analogy, especially for finance people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you wanna make sure you understand your credits and debits.
Yes,
Yes.
100%. Yeah, so the other side of it is building muscle, right?
Yep.
And if building muscle was easy, everyone that you would see out on the street would be like jacked,
Yeah.
right? And they would probably be shredded too, because when you put on more muscle, it increases your resting metabolic rate, your thermogenesis. You're going to be able to take in more calories. Your body is more insulin sensitive. You can store glycogen or carb in your muscle, and it's more effectively used, so it doesn't turn into fat as easy. There's so many upsides to having a ton of muscle, and I think the world is starting to understand that that's one of the best things that you could do for yourself metabolically,
Yeah.
on top of, aesthetics and also just like robustness and injury prevention. But a lot of things need to happen specifically. One, you need to be in a slight calorie surplus. You need to be eating enough. Two, you need to make sure you're getting adequate protein. Generally, like most people, we recommend like 1 gram per pound of weight, or if depending on their body fat percentage, it might be like a little less, like of their desired body weight. And then next is there needs to be enough mechanical tension. So like if you did something like, for example, yoga,
Mhm.
Pilates, these other methods of physical activity, and sometimes it's sport, right? Hey, I play soccer
Yeah.
or basketball, right? Like you're exerting energy, but there's not a lot of mechanical loading on the muscle tissue. So if there's not enough volume in the mechanical training, you're not going to have hypertrophy or muscle building. And then the more advanced you are, the more advanced the methods need to be, right? The people that we deal with, they're busy professionals. A lot of them, it's their first time going around and trying to invest into like a strength and conditioning program and trying to do something specific that's going to help expedite the process. And so we have to try to teach a lot of these frameworks, and it's difficult, right? I think we usually work with pretty smart people, so they understand the concepts. The difficulty lies in the execution,
Mm.
because as you know,
Yes.
training's hard.
Extremely.
Training is
Yeah.
hard.
Of course.
Yeah, but anything worth doing is not easy.
Yes.
And so that's something that we touch on all the time. I'm curious, like, so like 200 pounds is heavy.
Heavy.
How did you go from 200 down to, like, I'm not sure what you weigh now, or what you went down
Yeah.
to, but
I'm down to 160.
okay.
I think. Well, my doctor at my height at 160, my BMI is still not like ideal.
Yeah.
It's like considered overweight.
Mhm.
10% body fat. How he did it was, for all of you to think about it. It was actually accountability and competition.
Okay.
So I remember it was like 23 years old. A bunch of my guy friends. There was 10 of us.
Mhm.
We were going on a cruise. And
Okay,
we were
yeah.
all dating. We all had our significant other, and the bet was the 5 least physically active or aesthetic guy, right? So the 5 guys that were we had an ab contest. I remember that.
Nice.
So the bottom 5
Yeah.
would buy drinks, which is actually counterproductive for the top 5.
Yeah.
And then I said, of course, when we came up with this like bet competition,
Mhm.
guy to guy, you're not gonna back down, right?
Right.
So immediately I was like, yeah, I'm in. And then I looked at the 10 guys that were going. I'm like, damn it, I'm number 9. And
Great.
I'm a 9 on a good day,
Yeah.
because number 10 is like,
Not that far off.
not that far off. So I said, okay, what do I do? So full transparency, that time, 23, I was still living at home with my parents. I didn't really understand the importance of working out. Being an Asian minority family,
Mhm.
like you asked me, hey, like, how well did you know your math? Doing good in school was an emphasis.
Mhm.
Playing sports and working out did not matter.
No.
Did not matter. Like if I told my father, I was like, hey dad, I'm gonna go to gym. He was like, don't, you just ate. Or don't, you're gonna hurt yourself.
Right.
And
Definitely.
that was a shame. So, but then I looked at myself and I said, hey, first of all, I got to stop eating all this crap, which is junk food and
Mhm.
processed food. Second of all, I just went on a crazy watermelon diet.
Okay.
So I don't know what it was. I
Mhm.
just said, hey, I like fruits, but I didn't like sweet stuff. So I eat watermelon almost 3 meals a day.
Oh
And
my
then
God.
when I did not eat watermelon,
Yeah.
I would actually eat chicken breast.
Okay.
And then I would just
Watermelon chicken breast.
watermelon and chicken breast.
Right.
So for all the people, you probably like that too. But and I would just do push-ups and sit-ups
Okay.
for 3 months straight.
Okay.
And then I think I wasn't eating enough calories, most likely.
Yeah.
And I guess I was trying to do like 100 push-ups. I started trying to do like 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups,
Yeah.
then pushed it to 150,
Yeah.
then to 100.
Progressive overload.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
sooner or later, I was doing like 200 push-ups, sit-ups every single day until the cruise. And I was proud to say I was in the top three.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
great.
yeah, once we won that bet, then it went downhill again, right? Celebrating too long,
Yeah.
and I went back to like
Celebrating with drinks too.
that's right, that's right. So that's how I lost the weight. But I think it was more competition, accountability, something to shoot for,
Yeah.
and then just doing things that you're not comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
but challenging yourself with eating healthy and working out.
Yeah. That's so funny that you tie the accountability.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a target date too, which helps. You know,
Yes.
it's even better than just like, hey, I'm accountable to
3
somebody.
months.
Yeah, like those are things that we understand in terms of the psychology of the people that we work with. Like to the level that like, you know, we run like team challenges that are like 6-week long. There's literally something that just started on Sunday at our gym, which is the 4-week sprint, which is the winner gets their next month comped.
Nice.
And it's based upon best before and after photos.
Yes.
There's other things involved as well, but like, yeah, like those sort of like term date programs, they're very appealing to people when the timing is right. And that's what we want to provide. We want to provide that platform when somebody wants to push, it's time to go, right? Because otherwise, you know, we're human beings. It's going to get boring and monotonous if it's like the same repetitive thing over and over again. And so this adds the camaraderie, the variety, the community. People get hyped up.
Yes.
Energy in the gym is a little bit different too.
Yep.
And we've all got more of a purpose. So it's cool. Like I've learned that over time, like, you know, working with people, like, you know, regular people, not like athletes that have a lot more intrinsic motivation.
Yep.
Regular people, they do need a little bit of, you know, a lot of the pull motivation, which is like, hey, this is the potential. This is the ceiling of what we think that you could potentially do. But they also need a little bit of the push,
Yes.
right? Like, hey, you took a before photo. You don't want the after photo to look the same as the before photo.
Or worse for many people. Yeah, that's right. They forget.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's like the same thing with like people that you're working with,
Yeah.
right? Like, it would be kind of embarrassing if you spent a lot of time with them and then you advise them on a lot of strategies and then they're not employing them and then they're in a worse situation than they were when they first started. And sometimes there's no shame in that because everybody like hopefully listening, you know, is mature enough to like admit like their shortcomings and like when they've had you know, experiences that didn't turn the way that they wanted to. And if you don't, that means that you're not taking enough chances.
That's right.
But at the same time, hopefully you've taken a lesson away from it, you know, and hopefully you're not eating chicken and watermelon.
No. I realize there's more to the food pyramid, and there's other, you know, important nutrients we need in our life.
Yeah.
So and then especially now,
What a funny story.
the completely diet discipline as well.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of go back into earlier. So obviously, when you were 16 years old, you were already on this fitness workout journey. Want to be a MMA. Change your friends' lives, help people. And while most people at 16 years old, they're probably like just sleeping in class, cutting school, maybe like doing a little bit of underage drinking, underage smoking. None of that in my world. But you know, how were you able to at such an early age find that intrinsic motivation and discipline? Which I think there are people that are, you were 16, there are people that are twice your age, 3 times. There are people that are successful entrepreneurs today that still sometimes fail to find that discipline. How were you able to find it at such a young age?
You know, I think about that all the time. And as I've gotten older, I've understood how much of an effect like my family, not just like my nuclear family, but like my extended family, my aunts and uncles and my cousins, because we, you know, grew up in New York, you know, same for you. Like when you come from like immigrant culture, like, you know, your family is huge because like everybody takes care of each other. It's like a small village.
Yeah.
So my dad is one of 7.
Wow.
And he's the youngest. And so I have cousins of mine that are 20 plus years older than me. And so seeing them pave the way and understanding, like, and, you know, honestly, on a certain level, whether they knew that they were doing it or not, they were mentoring me, like sharing wisdom and guiding me. And I, you know, sometimes would take it more seriously, you know, sometimes like not. But like it really shaped the way that I looked at like my life. And I knew that I had to become something. I wasn't just gonna get by and be average. And like, I don't want to say that in like, a way that where I'm like putting other people down if they have like, like normal careers. But like for me, I had to be extraordinary. I had a lot to live up to. I had all these my family members, my peers, when I was really young, doing things like so and so's getting a full ride scholarship to like Stern,
Yeah.
right? They're graduating from Stuyvesant. Like this
Wow.
is my cousin Amy, who funny enough is a member.
Oh,
Who
great.
I was just at for this what was the most recent holiday?
Mother's Day,
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So and shout out to Amy. She's a great person. She's accomplished so much, and I look up to her in a lot of different ways, even as like adults now.
Yeah.
She's got a great family. She's a great mom. She's provided a lot for her kids, for her family, and also like she in the last 6-week team challenge, she was the only person to ever lead 2 teams.
Wow.
She's
Crush.
she's an MD at like Bank of America, so
Okay.
she's making our family proud.
Yeah.
Like a good Chinese girl.
Yeah. Successful in your career.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah.
of course.
But
Like
like
Stuyvesant, that
Yeah.
is itself. Stuyvesant, Bronx Science,
Yeah.
and there's Brooklyn Tech, the
Yeah.
third specialized.
Yes.
So every parent wanted their children to go Stuyvesant. For people that don't know Stuyvesant, yep.
And so, when you're kind of like side by side with people that are accomplishing things,
Yeah.
the bar is raised, right? Like the standards are higher, right? And the expectation is higher. And so, for me, I always I kind of had a model of what like I needed to do. But I also knew that I was in an industry it's the road less traveled. When you're in New York, like, and I didn't even really learn that much about this until I got older, but like, if you want to quote unquote make it, you work in like finance, consulting, this day and age, more like tech. And when I was younger, I wasn't exposed to these things because, my parents worked for the post office. My mom,
Conservative,
Yeah,
safety, stability,
exactly. Yeah,
pension.
my mom graduated from FIT, and we grew up like poor, so like in like the sweatshops.
Yeah.
My grandma was working at the sweatshop. My grandfather was working at like doing stock at like the restaurant on Pell Street.
Yep.
And it was a really hard time in the past, but they didn't provide the education, especially the financial education, for us to understand like what careers and industries we might want to pursue if we wanted to build a certain life. They did the best that they could, and I love them. They're amazing. But I was in an industry that's on a certain level, the barrier to entry is very low.
Mhm.
To become a personal trainer, you can have a high school diploma and get a certified personal trainer certification. And not only is the barrier to entry low, like the income potential generally is fairly low as well.
That's right.
And that's tough because I love the industry, but how do I build a life for myself, like the life that I feel like I deserve? And then I also, want to develop the skills to be able to be in the elite. But in an industry that's so challenging, it's like the fitness industry is kind of like the restaurant industry,
Yeah.
especially when you're brick and mortar, because the operational costs are so high. You're talking about like rent, payroll, and we have a lot of other operational costs. Most people don't understand that. And so, to scale this sort of business, it takes a certain sort of mind and precision and grit. And like I've stayed in the industry. I pushed myself, to be able to do things that I think a lot of hopefully my family would be proud of. And I feel like amongst, if you use that as my peer group that influenced me the most when I was younger, I think amongst my family, I think I'm doing okay.
Doing great.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so that was really what really pushed me and inspired me when I was younger. Nowadays, it's that motivation's not the same anymore.
Mhm.
My peers are different people, and I look up to a lot of different people, and fortunately, I have like a lot of good people and mentors around me, you included, who like I can bounce ideas off of and help make better decisions from.
Yeah. What I've heard is the tribe, the surrounding the environment,
Mhm.
right? And it's interesting because you mentioned your father is the youngest of 7,
Mhm.
and you have 2 older brothers. You're the youngest of your brothers, and I know both your brothers. And you're all incredible human beings, but you guys are all so different.
Yeah.
And just hearing you digging deep, because sometimes people have this misconception when you're the youngest, you're like the baby, or you're spoiled, or
Yeah.
or you get things that the oldest don't get away with. My question to you, and just thinking back, especially for a lot of people,
Mhm.
you entered an industry that is low barrier,
Mhm.
very challenging.
Mhm.
How did your parents feel about you coming into this industry.
Yeah.
Especially you said you worked at New York Sports Club, all these different gyms. You were an employee, a W-2 employee.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people in the fitness industry, and making 100 grand is a lot of money. And not that 100 grand is not a lot of money, but just it's like the dream to even hit 6 figures.
Right.
So, when you said, hey, I'm going to go in this industry, and you were a W-2 employee, how did they feel? To follow your passion versus to and go against their permission, let's say.
I think I come from I told you my mom graduated from FIT.
Yeah.
I would consider her more of like a little more creative, a little bit more of like an artist.
Yeah.
I was really lucky, was very encouraging of me pursuing like what I wanted to do, but
Beautiful.
she did say that you need to do it really well. I'll never forget that, because that kind of gave me like permission, like contrary to like a lot of like generally like Asian American parents will tell them like to be like, white collar professional.
Yeah.
My dad was a little bit more passive in his parenting. He was the youngest, so he was kind of like the baby. And so like my mom really like raised me, and I took her, words to heart. And I did pursue it, but there were a lot of challenges like along the way. And I would hear the naysayers, even when I was doing very well, and I was living in like, let's just say on like 31st Street on like the 30th floor, like 270-degree like wraparound views. And I don't know, my rent was like, let's just say it was like $4,500 a month. And I was like 25 years old.
High rise of Manhattan.
And I was doing very well. And my grandma's, because of the industry that I'm in, she's like, you should stop working in the gyms. People get into fights there, right? I would joke around. She's not around anymore, but then I would counter her by saying, "Yeah, and if you win the fights, you make more money."
That's right. That's right. You make a name for yourself. That's right.
I was half joking. I was just messing around with my grandma,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, I got it every step of the way that I should be pursuing something else. I kind of, as a backup, I was a business minor, even though my major undergrad was nutrition exercise sci.
Yeah.
But I knew that I was going to be in business, and I went to business school afterwards, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be elite at this, and I enjoy this. And like the other fitness people out there, the privately owned fitness facilities, especially, and I'm not talking about like the larger chains.
Yeah.
The other fitness people, they don't enjoy fitness the way that I do, and they don't enjoy business the way that I do, right? Like I love fitness because of the sciences, and then I love like fitness business way more than them, and I can eat, sleep, and breathe it all day. So like that kind of pushed me and gave me like that energy and that the throttle to be able to like shift to the next gear. And like I kind of had to shed my past and put it behind me and say like, I'm going to separate myself from, the kid who grew up in Queens and like all the past. And I actually didn't speak to my friends for a long time because I was on my own journey. I was on a mission, and, on a certain level, it was a lonely mission.
Yes.
So not a lot of people know that or talk about it. Like let's just say it's like, for me, it was probably 20 years old to about 28, where it was like, it was just the grind.
That's right.
It was the grind. I was working 7 days a week. I was going to business school. It was fucking crazy. But you got to go through that. When you go through that sort of like hellacious experience, I think a lot of like people come out of like Ivies and they go into like become iBanking associates. They learn like what the 80 to 100 hour hell is like, when like sleeping under their desks and like they're waiting for like emails to come in so they can like take the next step and like share it with somebody else, like, or they could put this report together and present it. Like I always like saw that, and that's like, it's like the attorney, the associate who's like plugging in like 80 to 100 hours. I'm like I'm gonna do that too, but I'm gonna do it in my industry, and it's gonna pay dividends in the long run, and nobody's gonna understand what the hell I'm doing because on a certain level, if I was doing the same thing in another industry, it would pay more. But here's what it looks like now. I'm 37, I'll be 38 this year. And a lot of the peers that I had who were in these other industries that are, on some level making more money, that's not what it comes, it's what it's all about at the end of the day. Like, because then I've got a tremendous amount of like health, wealth, community, and like a lot of social support. And I feel like amazing. I'm in a great place in my life. And just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean that all these other things are taken care of. And a lot of the times these people, they're coming at me for advice on how to take care of this side of their life because they've been neglecting it for 20 years. So yeah, so it's come full circle, but um, yeah, I had to shed my past is really what it come down to. I had to really let go of like how, the values that were being constantly like pushed on me and instilled on me and become my own person.
You said something about following your passion and loneliness. I think for many people that may be wealthy, successful in their careers,
Mm-hmm.
they fail to find that passion, which is why they lack fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing you're fulfilled in almost every aspect of life. That's why your community, you attract so many incredible people because you have so much to share, give, and also you receive from them, right? That community
Yeah.
we talked about, and the road of loneliness. I think from 20 to 28,
Yeah.
you sacrificed so much while. From 20 to 28, what is the typical average person doing? Maybe going to the bars, happy hours, hanging out, go on vacation, or you just putting in the work, the work.
Yeah.
And just talking to so many other fellow entrepreneurs that are killing it in their respective fields.
Mm-hmm.
The commonality I've seen is they realize in life you can be average or above average or below average, but in order to be above average, you can't be doing the same thing everyone else is doing.
Yes.
You have to
100%.
differentiate yourself. You have to be
Yeah.
unique, lean
Yeah.
into your superpower. And then once they found loneliness,
Mm-hmm.
most people, like, and I could tell by your personality, your intensity and energy, they fell in love with loneliness. Loneliness,
Yeah.
the power of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Read a book where some of the best and most successful people choose to go to a place of loneliness where their mind is able to be empty and blank. And then they can build what they're looking to build without any distractions and
Mm-hmm.
intense focus.
Yeah.
So kudos to you to figure that out at such a young age. And then 28, you know, you talked about the sacrifice. Now let's talk about where you are today.
Mm-hmm.
UpFit Academy. So you're surrounded by low barrier entry, an industry where it's difficult. What made you build your own company to go from W-2 to entrepreneur? I know there are so many people that not only choose stability and safety, but just being an entrepreneur and it scares them. And after becoming an entrepreneur, statistically, I don't know the retention rate and success rate of your industry. So many people fail. In fact, my uncle owned multiple gyms and he failed and he went back to owning nail salons. So like Asian family,
Yeah.
owning nail salons. Hey,
The model.
he knows the model, service model, right? Then he said, like, hey, let's do a gym. So therefore there's less manual labor, but it didn't do well and it failed. So tell us more. Why did you decide to open your own business and how are you going to, more importantly, disrupt the industry?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. I think even just let me bring it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Before 28, my last couple stints in the commercial clubs was I was an assistant studio manager or assistant fitness manager at a Crunch, where I learned a lot of the organizational behavior and compensation models behind like the different roles in management and with trainers. Um, and then I left there because I was vying for a fitness manager role. Interviewed 3 times. They wouldn't give it to me because basically I was too young, and the other people that were vying for the roles had more tenure. I said, like, screw this. I'm more capable, and I'm more hungry, and I'm more tenacious, and I'm more relentless than them. I left and went to another company called New York Health and Racket Club, and I was running a club, right? And
Yeah.
I got to test my mettle because they put me in that role, and the club hadn't hit their budget in 13 months. All of a sudden, I come in and like they hit their budget for like the first time. I was literally standing at like the front desk, like just greeting people and asking people, hey, like, have you had a chance to work with a personal trainer? And that's when I started to realize that, like, and I learned this from another guy, Naeem, who basically ended up becoming a director for the UFC gyms. Great guy. I learned a ton from him, from Crunch. And then, yeah, I basically learned that my superpower was, it was at the time, like sales and relentlessness and like tenacity. And so I just kind of leveraged that, and I started to learn more about that specific skill. And then I said, I need a counterpart who can help grow product in the way that I think the product should be as well. And that's, fast forward, that's where my childhood friend, who you know as well, Paul,
Yep.
who's my co-founder at UpFit, that's where she and I put our heads together. And I had the operational excellence, finance management, marketing, and operations. And then I knew how to like manage people. And then he was really good at product. And he also had a different sort of background. He was coaching at Fordham, Baylor, Rutgers, all D1 programs. And he understood infrastructure in a different way. We put our heads together and said, hey, listen, if we do this, this is going to be very disruptive. There's a huge reason why like strength and conditioning doesn't really work, or the general model at the collegiate level doesn't work for the general population in New York. Is one, there's not a lot of athletes here. They don't understand really what strength and conditioning is. They think it's like sports training and they just do some exercises, but it's not like that. Strength and conditioning is individualizing programs for every single person. So whether there's a wide receiver or there's a defensive lineman, those are two totally different body types. A point guard versus like a center, right? Or like a midfielder versus an outfielder, right? Like that's what sports teaches you. There's different body types and attributes and strengths and weaknesses. Even somebody who's narrow in the shoulders and narrow at the hips versus somebody who's wide and narrow or wide and wide, they will have certain advantages and disadvantages. And a strength coach, which is what we are, we understand that. And that's where the precision we bring in. We bring in individualized strength and conditioning methods. We individualize, do one-on-one nutrition coaching, one-on-one lifestyle coaching. We have strategic meetings with all of our members on a monthly basis. That's like on a one-to-one call. And so that product has refined itself over the years. And we said, we made a commitment to like basically provide like the best individualized evidence-based approach for the modern day busy New Yorker who would never be able to assemble this like for themselves. And then because we've grown over the years and we've got this huge community too, that just fosters it. Just like we were talking about it before with like accountability, community, that makes everything so much more accessible and easier and enjoyable, because the training's hard. Like really good, effective training is difficult, it's challenging, it's not always easy. And so, for us, it was the commitment to help people, to challenge ourselves in terms of business and leadership, and growing this product. And then to be able to like vision wise for us, we're trying to share this with more and more people as we continue to grow. And, I think in the next 2.5 to 3 years, the goal is to be at 5 clubs.
Great.
So,
And you're at 3 clubs right now.
yeah.
And for how many years did we get from 1 to 3?
We started business planning in November 2017.
Yeah.
The first club opened in January 2019.
So it took you over a year.
Yeah.
Not to say something about other business owners. I've seen so many business owners where they have an idea, they don't take the time to plan. You just talked about business planning. I've known you for almost 10 years now. In fact, you at one point wanted to go to the West Coast.
Yeah.
West Coast, did 4 trips to California in 1 year, then decided, hey, New York is where it is, where you grew up, and there is a market that needs your service. And you brought something so unique to the marketplace. And then from 2019 to today, we have 3 locations. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the experience as a club member. I love what you're doing. I've seen, not only I know it's a service model, but you guys have clearly a very unique product process, and the people, the community is incredible. Just tell us more about that.
Yeah.
At UpFit.
Yeah, it's very different from most places. I mean,
Yes.
we do a really formalized onboarding.
Yes.
So people come in initially for like a one-on-one evaluation with a senior coach. They'll be taken through a movement screen and a strength and conditioning assessment, and then custom programming is written for them. They're also onboarded by our member success manager, who's going to lay out like the law of the land. They're going to introduce themselves as a concierge and account manager. So it's very different from other fitness businesses in that the sales side and account management side is separated from the service side. And it's important that we do that because coaches and service providers should solely be focused on that. They shouldn't be focused on trying to sell you into the next program.
That's right.
Right. And so
That's the conflict of interest.
it is
Massive.
It is. And unfortunately in our industry, and I mean, I don't know how it is in your industry, but there are probably some, financial advisors who, might not necessarily give the best advice in order to rope somebody into continuing to work with them for a long time. And with personal trainers, it's definitely the case where people will almost hold you kind of hostage and somewhat incapable in order for you to continue to lean on them for, service.
Wow.
So unfortunately, that's it's something that happens in the industry. We are the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to help you develop competence and autonomy with strength and conditioning, with body composition training, with your lifestyle, because we know that at a certain point, you're no longer going to be engaged with us, whether that's because you're moving on to doing something else, or you've moved out of the state or country or whatever. And it's hopefully the next thing that you do, you've laid the foundation to understand like energy systems, adaptations, how to progress, and you've got a really strong base that you can lean on that you develop with us. That's our mission. Not to keep you with us for forever, but like after they onboard and do their evaluations, they start coming in for training sessions, whether that's like a semi-private or a one-on-one format. Semi-private, we believe, is the graduate level of training. It's for people who have more like better motor control, more autonomy, more competence. They can understand auditory cueing better and visual cueing better versus in personal training, a lot of people who don't have that level of experience, they need more tactile feedback. They need like a little bit more time to explain like what's going on. Or sometimes in one-on-one, they're in that vehicle because they need they have special orthopedic considerations, or they need special attention because let's just say it's like psychosocial also, or it's just strongly like their preference.
Yeah.
So yeah, so personal training is for generally like we call it like special needs or special situations.
Mhm.
And then semi-private is really what we're trying to ascend everybody into or graduate everybody into. And we celebrate it. We say, hey, you're in semi-private. This is like the graduate level program. And then from there are checkpoints where like the member success side, they're constantly surveying members, making sure that we're delivering, a 5 out of 5 experience. If there are any shortcomings, we try to interject and make sure that we're able to value add. As people are going through our program too on a monthly basis, they do a strategy session coaching call. It's a 30-minute coaching call, which is an opportunity to audit their prior month's performance objectively and subjectively, and then collaborate on training, nutrition, and lifestyle strategies to help them continue moving forward. It's so important because months can go by and if your portfolio, for example, is like unchecked, you might not be able to be as adaptable and change as the market conditions are changing, right? So for us, same thing. Like people are going through different stages of their life cycle. Let's just say it's kids, work stress, travel, etc. We need to be able to coach them and help them understand that fitness is a lifestyle, and they need to be able to dial up and dial down accordingly, so that way it's sustainable. If you're going to try to hit a high intensity all the time, something's going to break. And sometimes that means their bodies are going to break, right? And we don't want that. We pride ourselves on like injury prevention programs and sustainability and like building a lifestyle. So we do really consider ourselves more of a coaching program than like a gym. And we're strength coaches, which is, I don't know if anybody knows about this, but CSCS is a certified strength and conditioning specialist. It's like a CPA credential
Mm.
for what we do. You usually need a degree in the industry in order to even vie for it. So like our coaches have bachelor's in exercise sci or master's degrees in exercise sci, and they're CSCS.
Wow.
So there's a certain standard that we uphold internally also. And I'm really like, we're still working on it. As you know, as a business owner, it's everything's always a work in progress. But the main thing that also differentiates us is we've centralized our whole training program, meaning that you can go to any location and go to any service provider, any coach, and your program's going to be delivered fairly ubiquitously. The only differences are going to be differences in personality mostly. So like, for example, like I can't be a female coach.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And some of our, let's just say, female like members, they're just gonna like that style of coaching and communication more. Because I just talk the way that I talk. I get along with most people, but I can't be everything to everyone. And so I love that side of the business as well. Is building a very diverse team that can offer and add value in a lot of different ways. And for me as a leader, it's so rewarding to be able to look at somebody, understand what their strengths are, and then understand like, hey, we need to figure out how to make the most of your strengths and if you choose to do so, help you develop your weaknesses. But it's not necessarily always essential to do that, and you kind of have to figure out the right time to do that stuff as well. So yeah, so like our program, we're still working on the product, we're still working on the service, we're still working on the execution, operations, and everything, right? It's the challenges of being a small business owner, that's bootstrap basically. But I'm so looking forward to all this stuff, and there's so much ahead of us. I wake up every morning, and I do work a lot, but I always wake up excited. I love what I do. I love working with people. I love adding value.
Yeah, no, as you're saying all this, just thinking about your your industry,
Hmm.
I don't think I've ever met someone in your industry say the things that you just said,
Wow.
which is clearly it's a this is not just a career, it's like your calling, your passion.
Yeah.
I love how you talked about customization, helping every one of your members. And as I've been in your locations many times, what's really beautiful is you being, co-founder with Paul, you know every member's name.
Yeah.
And when you built the first location, I remember we talked about this. You had like about 100 members. Now you have 300 members,
Hmm.
and although you're 3 times busier,
Hmm.
you've never stopped that quality of care,
Hmm.
service, and that mission to help people.
Hmm.
And as you talked about, something that's really interesting, similar to our industry, is I'm not sure if your industry is the same, but I find that most industries, let's say, and I've been to so many gyms in my lifetime, is they're trying to fit you into a mold, into a
Hmm.
program. But
Yeah.
no one really, and I don't think people are bad people. I hope not. But no one really has the time, the capacity to fit a program to you,
Hmm.
to you.
Hmm.
And most gyms I go to is either like a big class or one-on-one private. But
Right.
it's interesting that you and Paul came up with a curriculum where it's semi-private is actually a
Mhm.
gradual level, which makes a lot of sense because when you start training around people similar to you, have that community accountability is
Mhm.
different because even when I do one-on-one private sessions, it feels just okay, but
Mhm.
you're not really you're motivated by your coach. However, I think just like it's like working out with your buddies. When you work out with your buddies, you're
Yeah.
able to push harder,
Yes.
go longer,
100%.
and there's a different level of energy, excitement.
Mhm.
So, and in our industry, in finance, you actually just mentioned this. I find that too many financial professionals, it's not their fault. It's the industry, it's the
Mhm.
training. They meet someone, you want to retire, they're going to recommend a product
Mhm.
to you.
Yeah.
So it's really product first, then people second.
Mhm.
But now you're depending on the product or you're dependent on the advisor, which
Mhm.
I'm completely not in love with. I talk about disrupting the industry. We're very similar, revolutionizing
Mhm.
financial services, just like you're revolutionizing fitness.
Mhm.
My vision is instead of you being sold a product
Mhm.
all the time, but if the advisor is gone or you don't and most people don't understand the product,
Mhm.
now you're dependent on it.
Right.
Instead, let's go upstream to the root cause of the problem, which
Mhm.
is the education and the empowerment. So
Yes.
an analogy I love using is like, let's say you want to play golf.
Mhm.
Most people, most industries, like, okay, I'll sell you the most expensive golf club. But
Mhm.
that doesn't help you because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, your root cause is you want to play golf.
Right.
So what you're doing is similar to what we're doing. We do education empowerment,
Mhm.
teaching you so that you can play golf, whether you buy the most expensive golf club or you buy the cheapest golf club at Target,
Yeah.
right? That's okay because you still outplay your friend
Mhm.
who doesn't know how to play golf, but sold a product,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then especially I love how you said if members go to your gym, New York City, one of the busiest cities in the world,
Mhm.
busy lives, constantly changing. Now they learn the foundational knowledge
Mhm.
to really work out. Later on, if they move, their
Mhm.
life changes, they're still able to be be on that fitness journey
Yeah.
with or without UpFit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so it's such an abundant mentality. What?
It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. It's funny that I haven't heard anybody use that word in a while. I think it was overused for a little bit, like the abundance mentality versus like scarcity
Yeah.
mentality. Um, but yeah, I can still remember the time that I actually like learned in real life, not just like, conceptually, like, from someone else saying it or like in a book or something about abundance versus scarcity. But I had and I still keep in touch with him. He was a long time client, this guy, Dan Jarvis. great guy. He would selflessly host these massive parties in his place. At the time was Chelsea, and then like at some point it was like Williamsburg. And he was fronting everything, like food. I mean, I'm talking about like 20 bottles of like, I think it's called Clase Azul,
Yeah.
the tequila.
Hmm.
And he had a stash too. He was so generous with everything. And I saw the community that he was able to cultivate as a result of that generosity and that abundance mentality. And I saw it and I was like, immediately, like, I want to be able to do this for like my community. Not that his community wasn't my community, but it wasn't like the same type of people. I grew I hung out with a lot of like fighters and like, like fitness people, different sort of like definitely more scarcity mindseted. Again, not a very affluent community. And so I was fortunate enough to be able to start to do that. And I love the way that it made others feel, the way it made me feel. And that's when I realized like, I'm not working for money anymore. I'm working to have an impact on people. And I'll work my ass off for other people, like way more than I'll work for myself.
Yep. The pursuit and purpose of serving others. Amazing. Yeah. And what made you have that type of personality? I think a lot of people don't have that personality. What drives you to think that way?
Um, Shit. I know, actually, I know the answer to that. It's, it's like seeing like my, uh, my mom and my grandma. And like, I'm working so hard. And my mom was like working the graveyard shift at like the post office and like pregnant with me. And my dad was driving a cab, and we were coming from like living in the projects in subsidized housing. They used to like bomb our apartment for like rats and roaches. And like, I mean, this probably isn't like an uncommon story, for most like Asian American immigrants, but like, you can call whatever you want trauma, scarring. Like that's like, it made me like have like an insane amount of work ethic, and taught me that like you gotta work to serve your family and like your community and like other people. And like that you'll find a limitless amount of energy. I lived in this building that was like 60 stories in Midtown. Even when I lived in Battery Park, and the building was only 46 stories, I had this exercise that I used to do where I would just climb the stairs in like darkness. I would have like some music playing or something like that, right? But I would push my body like so hard climbing the stairs. And when it got hard, this is like during like the lonely chapter in my life, I would remind myself like why I'm doing it. And I learned later on that some people call these like triggers. And in sports psychology, it was really important to understand your triggers so that way you knew when to like push and like dig deep. And so for me, the triggers were always like when it gets really, really hard, I just gotta remind myself like, I'm doing it for my family. I'm doing it for myself also, but like so that I could also provide for my family. And like that's the greatest cause ever.
That's great. And knowing you and knowing many of our mutual friends, you're an inspiration to so many. And hearing just how much you deeply care, it's not a surprise how quickly you built your locations, your members, and every one of them speak highly of you and Paul and all the work you're doing. But I love how you have this. People don't know, but coming from a scarcity mentality, most stay scarce for a long time. But it's because you and I call this breaking the minority curse,
Mhm.
trying to, either we break the curse or we pass the curse to our future generations, our loved ones. You broke that curse. You didn't have much, but you chose to give so much. And being a business owner, you're saying this on our show, saying simply, hey, members that join your gym, you're going to train them, teach them the foundational exercise where you're going to customize to them, help serve them, and they are not supposed to be dependent on you. And that abundant mentality makes so much sense because last time I checked, there's 10 million people in New York City alone,
Yeah.
right? Like, I don't think you or I in our lifetime, in our industry, can we work with 10 million members.
No.
No chance. But that abundant mentality, as much as we give, you and Paul and your family have received so much, which is truly incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. I'm gonna keep doing it. whether, 10 years from now, I'm still in this industry or I'm doing something else, you better believe like it's going to be something that hopefully will be able to continue to make a big impact with people. Cause I just love, I get so much out of it for me. That's why I keep going.
Yeah. Let's talk about that future. Now that we've talked about the past, talked about the present, let's talk about the future. Where do you see your industry? What are you doing uh, as you and Paul building your business? What does that future look like?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. I think about it all the day. Obviously, we plan around it. We think about like what trends are coming up and what the competition looks like. CrossFit was like a big thing for a long time, and I think that a lot of there were some things that weren't that great that happened and it got bad press around,
Yeah.
which is why CrossFit isn't really around anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't want to talk bad about them, but basically, now the biggest thing emerging is like there's something called High Rocks, which is like they call it like the World Series of Fitness Racing. And it's very accessible. It's physically demanding, but it's more metabolic. It's less mechanical tension, so it's lower risk of injury. And so there's a lot of people trying to do stuff like that to challenge themselves physically. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Spartan race or Tough
I am.
Butters.
Yep.
Those things were more popular maybe 10 years ago. So this is like the next big thing,
Yeah.
fitness racing. And then there's also a heavy emphasis on like community building, and working out with other people because I don't know if you're familiar with this, but like, like suicide rates amongst like young men are extremely high. There's a lot of challenges, especially living in a big city, that New Yorkers deal with in terms of the ratio of cost of living to their incomes. So it's difficult when you juxtapose that with all the stuff that you see on social media, which a lot of our young people these days are
Glued
inundated
to.
with.
Yep.
And so they see everybody living their best life, but in New York, it's not really they're not really living that like for themselves personally. So it causes a lot of there's a huge dissonance between like reality and like aspiration. And so community is the way that a lot of people are able to combat that and like, commiserate together, but also like, celebrating each other's successes too. So in fitness, the emphasis now is like community. And then, the aspiration is being fit enough to be able to do some of these like races, or they could honestly even be like running and cycling and triathlons and stuff like that too. So
Like a Ironman.
yeah, I see a lot. That's like the trend that I see. But I think that methods like what we employ, which is like, strength and conditioning, evidence-based methods like progressive overload, like building muscle, losing body fat, that stuff is always going to be around. And, for us, the goal is to continue to grow our um, notoriety as like subject matter experts and to prove it with like the results and reviews. I guess these days are like a big thing also, and before and afters, so that way we can separate ourselves from the noise. Because if you ask me another 10 years from now, if I'm still in the industry, the racing, it'll just evolve into something else. That stuff's like a fad. The community thing, that's always been a thing, but just because CrossFit's gone, now people are talking about it more, and there are different vehicles for it. But community has always been a thing in fitness. And so I think our product is going to be very long lasting. And as the category of semi-private continues to get more exposure and grow, I think more people are going to understand what we do, and hopefully we'll be able to touch more people. But yeah, for us, like continue to grow more locations, create ownership opportunities for like coaches that want to move into that role, create investment opportunities for people who believe in us and want to continue to help us scale. And then let's just say 3 to 5 years from now, um, I wouldn't be opposed to entertaining like a conversation around some sort of exit, but I also wouldn't be on a certain level, I wanna be challenged from an operator standpoint. I would love to sell off a certain percentage of the company, and we've had offers from, I'll just say it, we've had offers from, like, Lifetime, to buy, one of our clubs. But I would love to stay on and learn what it takes to continue growing this brand and go multi-city when the time is right. Because I want to go like multi-neighborhood is what we're doing right now. I want to be able to operate remotely and be able to run multiple clubs, run all the infrastructure. And then I want to be able to go multi-city, and then international would be the next thing. So there are so many steps that to be able to take it. And I'm patient in knowing that like big businesses like Amazon, like Apple, and we may or may not ever, get anywhere near that. Um, they take decades to build. So I'm patient. We've been doing this since 2019. What is it? 6 years?
6 years.
Yeah. I think 4 years from now, when we hit the 10-year mark, I think we're really gonna know like what level of scale like we have the potential to hit. Whether that's like private equity comes in, and then we have a lot more strategic advisorship, and then this becomes something even bigger. I'm open to those ideas, but um, we're still taking it one step at a time.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that.
Yeah.
You're saying being a student of the craft,
Yeah.
growing, constant learning,
Yeah.
becoming a master of the craft, and then exploring outside of the tri-state area, multi-city, national, then international. And as a business owner, you talk about profitability, and I generally share this. I don't invest in a lot of business, but being an investor of UpFit Academy, I know your numbers. I know what you guys are building. I know you guys are doing incredibly well. So my before we wrap up, for all the people that are watching that want to pursue their fitness journey, what is the top 3 words of wisdom you would give them as they want to pursue their fitness journey?
I got one that I know that is it probably isn't as controversial these days, but more isn't better. There was a while where a lot of people were like, hey, do this, do cold plunge, do sauna. You gotta work on your sleep. You gotta meditate. You gotta do your gratitude journal. Like more isn't better. Like there's a law of diminishing returns. Some of this and that, but it's helpful, but it's contextual. So that's the first thing that I'll tell people. If you're starting your fitness journey, don't try to do everything all at once. Sometimes you just gotta focus on one thing.
Great. That's great advice. Yeah.
Probably applicable to many things.
Too many. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Understand your key performance indicators, all right? Or like know what the big rocks are. Kind of goes back into the focus category, right? Like you can only do so many things at once, but and you don't want to be spread too thin. But like for weight loss, for example, it's inputs and outputs. For building muscle, it's mechanical tension and volume, eating enough, right? And on a certain level, like sleeping enough so your body produces growth hormones. So like whatever the pursuit is, know what your key performance indicators are and constantly measure that. Last thing is ties back into the community. If you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with other people.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's incredible advice, words of wisdom from a fitness expert and successful entrepreneur.
Thanks.
Finally, for everyone that's watching, how can they find you if they want to, locate UpFit Academy, be a client, reach out to you, communicate, message you? How can people find you?
Yeah. Obviously, UpFit Training Academy. You can just Google us. We have 3 locations in Midtown, downtown, and in Brooklyn. UpFitAcademy.com, and we're on Instagram as well. I would love to hear from people who, if anybody is interested in having an exercise scientist come in. I'm starting to do this thing where I'm doing these lunch and learns, where I'm just going into companies for 45 minutes and I just buy lunch for everybody. And then it's a 45-minute, I'll give a short blurb on, like whatever topic they're interested in. And then it's mostly Q&A. Because most people would never have the opportunity of having somebody just come in and just talk as an exercise scientist and answer any of these questions that they have in terms of fitness. I'll dispel all the myths. I'll cut through all the noise.
Wow.
And I'll tell them how to get whatever they need to get done. So, yeah, please hit me up for that. Cause I'm trying to reach more businesses and more people.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a win-win for everybody.
Truly a selfless man. Like just hearing all this, for all of you that are watching, definitely hit up Westley, hit up UpFit Academy, but truly a selfless man, and just the pursuit and passion and fulfillment in life is incredible. You guys, everyone that's watching can sense the energy and all the truth that you're spitting out, sharing with all. It's so inspiring. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining another episode of Unleash Mindset, where we bring the best people, entrepreneurs, people that can uplift you, unleash your greatest potential, help you become the best person you can possibly be. Thanks, Wesley. That was great. Appreciate it, brother. You're the man.